The Marathon County Board of Supervisors to order, please. Today being the 5th year anniversary of the tragedy that happened here in Marathon County, please keep in your thoughts and prayers the people that were affected by that tragedy that happened 5 years ago, because after the Pledge of Allegiance, we will have a silent moment of reflection. So please, again, keep in your thoughts and prayers those families that were affected by that tragedy that happened 5 years ago today. So with that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you. And we'll have the reading of the notice, please.
The adjourned annual meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, composed of 38 members, will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street, Wausau, on Tuesday, March 22nd at 7 p.m., and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. And I would like to request everyone, please put your phones on silent, any other electronic devices, as to not be an interruption to the meeting, and I thank you for your compliance. So we will go on, and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Arstead. Here. Beestrom. Here. Bizzotto.
Here.
Book.
Here.
Butke.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Seiler.
Here.
Conway. Supervisor Conway?
Here.
Thank you. Dickinson.
Here.
Draybeck.
Here.
Pfeifrick.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Gibbs.
Here.
Gonnering. Supervisor Gonnering?
Here.
Thank you. Guild.
Here.
Gums.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Krause. Supervisor Krause.
Here.
Thank you. Lamont.
Here.
Longenhan.
Here.
Leahy.
Here.
Lowe.
Here.
Mask.
Here.
McEwen.
Here.
Oberbeck.
Here.
Opal. Robinson.
Here.
Rosenberg. Seafelt.
Here.
Soibert.
Here.
Van Cray.
Here.
Zhang.
Here.
Thank you. We have 34 supervisors present.
Thank you. And I would like to welcome all of the guests that we have this evening, and thank you for your interest in Marathon County government. And tonight, we have some special guests. And under item B7, we have with us Senator Jerry Petrusky, and we also have Representative Pat Schneider. And they have a presentation, so I would ask that they please come to the podium up here, and the floor is theirs.
for a taller person. Oh, well. Good evening, everyone. It is truly an honor and a privilege for Representative Snyder and myself to be here tonight. We were going to do this earlier, and somehow it just got delayed until now. But I really wanted to honor Arnold Schley for his many years of service, 28 years as town chairman, another 4 as a supervisor, another 2 as an inspector, plus a time on the county board, plus a time involved with the Wisconsin Towns Association. And as much as I want to say thank you to Arnie, I also really want to thank you, because I think everybody here knows that to commit as much time as any of these jobs take, it's because you have a spouse at home that helps you and puts up with it. So, Patricia, thank you. I got to know Arnie through the years. Of course, he was involved in local government even before I was. But he was a good guy, an honorable guy that cared. And I would really like to, Pat has a plaque for you, but I thought a really appropriate gift would be to present you with a flag, one for each one of your sons, that was flown over the Capitol in Arnie's honor. So if you would, I would present one to you and one to you. So thank you very much. Pat?
Well, thank you. And to remember all the accomplishments, Jerry and I have introduced into the state of Wisconsin a citation commemorating the life and accomplishments of Arnie Schley. And I'll just read the citation to you. Whereas Arnie Albert Schley passed away on Wednesday, October 13th, 2021 at the age of 73 years old and is survived by his wife of 52 years, Patricia, children Chad and Scott, and grandchildren August, Violet, Sophie, and Zachary. And whereas Arnold married his high school sweetheart, Patricia, in 1969 before beginning his lifelong commitment to public service by joining the United States Army Reserve and reaching the rank of Staff Sergeant. And whereas Arnold Schley founded Pfingsten Schley Construction in 1972 before assuming operation of his family farm settled by his great-grandfather back in 1980, he took over the farm where he raised veal cattle until he retired in 2014. And whereas Arnold served the town of Easton faithfully for 2 years as building inspector, 6 years as town supervisor, 28 years as town chairman, and further served as Marathon County supervisor for District 12 and county board chairman at the time of his passing. And whereas Arnold served the Wisconsin Towns Association as an officer and later as president, extending his service beyond Marathon County to benefit the entire state. And whereas Arnold shared his deep love for hunting, fishing, and trapping with his children, his grandchildren, which lead to his work as the director of Wisconsin County Forest Association, as a presenter at the Wausau School Forest, and he planted over 300 trees on his property to sustain the forest. Now, let it therefore be resolved that Senator Jerry Petrusky, Representative Patrick Snyder, do hereby honor Arnold Schley for his passion, commitment, dedication, and lifelong service to the town of Easton, Marathon County, and the state of Wisconsin. Signed by both the senator and myself.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. Arnie loved his community, he loved the state of Wisconsin, and he did everything he could to further conservation for the state. And I do appreciate this and accept it humbly on behalf of me and my family in Arnie's honor. Thank you so much.
Well, Thank you, Senator and Representative, and thank you, Pat and Scott, and on behalf of the board. Arnie always did have the interest of the citizens of Marathon County in his heart. So thank you for that. We will move on to items C, the consent agenda, item C8 through item C12B1. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Robinson and second by Vice Chair McEwen. Any discussion on items C8 through item C12B1? Supervisor Langenhan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a clarification that I would request from Corp Counsel. So on item C11C, Town of Old Plain rezone 8-22, in the package for you all today, I think it's on page 11, there is a copy of the ordinance amendment that came out of the Environmental Resources Committee. And the way I'm reading it, and maybe Corporation Counsel can help me out here, but it's to make both of those rezones as part of the request. Now, when ERC met, we had only approved one of those rezones because there was some additional information that was presented that day. So I want to be clear, when we vote today, we're only voting to approve the change from farmland pres to urban residential, and we are denying the farmland pres to general ag. Because I know that when we had some correspondence and we could approve one and not approve the other, I just want to make sure when we take our vote today, it's consistent with the ERC's action. So I'll direct that to Corp Counsel. Yeah.
Go ahead, Corp Counsel.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Langenhan. And I did review this resolution with that conversation in mind. It does accomplish what the ERC committee did vote on, which was to deny in part the application and approve in part. The part that you're approving today or voting on today is the part that ERC did approve. And the part that was denied based on the new information that was presented would not be approved as a part of approving this resolution.
A follow-up, Chair.
Go ahead.
A little bit more background to the rest of the county board then. The applicant was, or I should say the applicant's representative was agreeable in this approval. So it's not that the denial would be a substantial impact to them. Their representative that day was reflected that it would be consistent with their wishes. So just to let everybody know that. It's not often when we deny a rezone at the ERC. We have wonderful staff that review all of the information. But when we do recommend denial, it's important that everybody understand that, you know, this is not something we typically do. But thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Corp Counsel.
Thank you. Any other questions on the items, again, item C8 through items C12B1? The motion is to approve. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve consent agenda items C8 through items C12B1 signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you, one and all. Moving on to item D, ordinances, D13, an ordinance amending the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17, Zoning Code, Ordinance 0-9-22. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Butke and second by Supervisor Seefeld. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Supervisor Gums.
I wonder if someone could talk about item 5, that conditional use permit regarding housing, the different type of housing things. I was just wondering what that was talking about.
We have the CPZ Director, Lori Miskimmons, on. Lori, if you would.
Yeah, give me just a second here to pull it up in the packet.
Sure.
Yeah, so that is just referring to within urban residential, low density residential, and rural residential, there would be the option for somebody to pursue a conditional use permit for some sort of home occupation or business profession. So that would still have to go through the Board of Adjustment. It would have to meet the criteria of the determination criteria of a conditional use permit. And the town would still be able, the town where that conditional use permit is being proposed could still weigh in as to whether or not they support that type of use within a residence within their town as well. So, and it came from just an increase over the last couple of years of interest and requests from people to have that option if it's appropriate for their district and adjacent land uses and, limited impacts to their neighbors and things like that. So I'm not sure if that addresses the question, but
Supervisor
I'll
Gomes,
open it back
follow
up
up?
at that point.
Yeah, thank you. It does. We had in our township about 15 years ago where somebody was starting an herbal soap business, that type of thing. And it got to be real muddy. So if this clarifies things and makes it available, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the amending the ordinance in Chapter 17 zoning, ordinance 0-9-22? And the motion is to approve. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of amending the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code, ordinance 0-9-22, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries and is unanimous. Thank you. We will move on to item E, resolutions, and item E14, approval of the 2022 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 19-22. This does require a 2/3 majority. What is your pleasure? Supervisor Fisher with the motion. Is there a second? Second with Supervisor Robinson. Any discussion on the budget transfers? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. The motion is to approve the 2022 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 19-22. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried and is unanimous, and obviously 2/3 majority. Moving on to item E15, establish salaries for the sheriff and clerk of courts, elected department heads for the upcoming term of office 2023 to 2026. Resolution 22-22. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Christensen and second by Vice Chair McEwen. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote on item E15, which establishes the salary for the sheriff and the clerk of courts, elected department heads, upcoming term of office 2023 to 2026. Resolution 22-22. All in favor of that motion of approval signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried and is unanimous. Thank you. And we'll move on to item E16, initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $24,165,000 general obligation bonds or promissory notes for capital improvement plan projects. Resolution 24-22. Again, this is the initial resolution authorizing the bonds be issued to fulfill the capital improvement plan that this board has approved back in November. Motion by Supervisor Robinson and seconded by Supervisor Leahy. Is there any discussion? This does require a 3/4 majority vote of the full board. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion for approval of the initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $24,165,000 general obligation bonds or promissory notes for capital improvement plan projects, Resolution 24-22, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion is carried and is unanimous, and that does suffice we meet the requirements of the 3/4 majority. Thank you, and we'll move on to item E, 17, a resolution declaring the official intent to reimburse expenditures on capital improvement plan projects from the proceeds of borrowing. Again, Resolution 25-22. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Fisher. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Arstead. Any discussion? Again, this is if those projects, capital improvement projects, were started and funded with some reserves of the county, this will allow those bond funds to reimburse those funds that were utilized already to start those projects. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to vote on the resolution declaring the official intent to reimburse expenditures on the capital improvement plan projects from proceeds of borrowing. Again, Resolution 25-22. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And the motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you. And we will move on to Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee and the Executive Committee. Item F18, a resolution to authorize the execution of the NCCS North Central Community Services non-state grant agreement and the North Central Community Services non-state grant use restriction agreement, both of which are a precondition to distribution of $5 million in state grant funds to be applied to the Marathon County, to the NCHC reconstruction project. Resolution 20-22. Motion by Supervisor Seiler, seconded by Supervisor Rosenberg. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All those in favor of the resolution to authorize the execution of the North Central Community Services non-state grant agreement and the North Central Community Services non-state grant use restriction agreement, both of which are preconditioned to distribution or disbursement of the $5 million in state grant funds to be applied to the Marathon County, to the North Central Healthcare Reconstruction Project. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion is carried. Thank you. We will move on to item G from the Executive Committee. Adoption of the 2022 Administrator Work Plan, Resolution 27-22. What is your pleasure? Motion by Supervisor Seefeld, and seconded by Supervisor Budke. Any discussion? Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question for clarification. So under the dependencies column, it talks a lot about staff capacity for most of these issues, most of these items. Three of them talk about a data analyst position, a creation of a data analyst position. So I'm just asking, is it the intent then to be hiring data analysts for these projects? Is that something that, you know, the administrator will be working towards, or?
The administrator is with us, and I would refer that question to the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson, the intent of that reference is to capture the direction of the board that pursuing a data analyst position, not specifically for any individual project, but rather for the county as a whole, particularly within the justice system, has been an ongoing priority. So to this point, I have been working with staff within the criminal justice system, particularly within the county administrator's office and the Justice Alternatives Program, to identify resources to make that a reality. It has been, as I indicated, a priority for a number of years, but we haven't been able to identify that funding source. That's what that reference within the plan is meant to capture. Not that each specific project requires a data analyst, but rather that those resources would be beneficial to a number of projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the administrator's work plan? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to adopt the 2022 Administrator's Work Plan, Resolution 27-22. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion is carried and is unanimous. Thank you. We move on to item H, County Board of Supervisors. H20, change in supervisory district boundaries resulting from City of Marshfield annexations. Resolution 28-22. What is your pleasure? Supervisor Gums with the motion and Supervisor Rosenberg with the second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the changes in supervisory district boundaries resulting from the City of Marshfield annexation, Resolution 28-22, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are down to item I. If there is someone that would like to read that motion, Supervisor Langenhan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 19.85 sub 1 sub C of Wisconsin statutes to consider performance evaluation data of a public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, namely the county administrator.
Okay, is there a second? Second by, who seconded it? Supervisor Arstead with a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote is required. Any discussion? I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Jacobson.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Krause. Supervisor Krause.
Aye.
Lamont.
Aye.
Langenhan.
Aye.
Leahy. Lowe. Mask.
Aye.
McEwen.
Aye.
Oberbeck. Robinson. Rosenberg. Seefelt. Soibert.
Here.
Supervisor Soibert, it's a yes or no vote for this one.
Yes.
Thank
that was
you.
stupid.
Van Cray.
Yes.
Zhang.
Oops, sorry, I muted myself. Yes.
Thank you. Arstead. Beestrom. Bizotto.
Yes.
Book. Aye. Butke. Aye. Christensen.
Aye.
Seiler. Aye. Conway.
Yes.
Dickinson.
Yes.
Drabeck.
Aye.
Pfeifrick.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Gaber.
Aye.
Gibbs.
Aye.
Gonnering.
Aye.
Guild.
Aye.
Gums.
Aye.
And Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
And the motion is carried. We'll proceed into closed session. It'll take a little while. Just to remind everyone that is here in person, please do not use the PA or the PA system. We will take that offline, and it'll take us a minute to lock the room.